Hi everyone! When you try to make a browser, you'll need much information about the web page loaded. Typically, you'll need title and URL. Also, you'll need commands to control the web page. Then how can you do that? In previous videos, I referred to this architecture diagram. And the answer is in this diagram again. The content layer bridges browser application and web engine. So if you're going to make a browser, which embeds web engine, all you need would be in the content layer. So, in this layer, web contents is the core object. Web contents represents a web page. When you have two tabs, you have two web contents instances. And the active web contents is set to the web view. So if you switch the active tab, the web contents bound to the tab will be inserted into the web view. You can get information about the tab through web contents, such as URL and title. And also you can execute many commands to the tab via web contents, like stop, reload, focus, navigation. And when you need to observe events from the tab, you can use Web Contents Observer. You can observe events like navigation state, metadata, and so on with this interface. So, let's take a look at these with the Views Examples project. When you run this build command, Views Example project with WebView example will be built. Note that this project name is not the same with the one in the previous video. This time, it ends with content. When build finishes, you can run the example with WebView. You can find WebView in the sidebar, and it'll load Google when you click it. The WebView example is implemented like this. You can see WebView get web contents method. This method will create and return the initial web contents for the web view, and then it loads Google via WebView API. But it's not enough to call it a browser. So how about adding some UI to the top of it? In order to do this, we'll need some setup before adding the actual UI. Firstly, add a parent for WebView and new UI controls. This parent view will lay out new controls and WebView vertically, like browsers we know. For this, I used Flex Layout View, which is a view that has Flex Layout Manager. Flex Layout Manager is Vue's framework version of CSS Flex Layout. Then I'm going to add a few controls. In the first line, I'd like to have title bar. And in the second line, we can add other controls like URL bar, and so on. In order to lay out them in horizontally, I used Vue's Box Layout View. This view has Box Layout Manager and lay out its children linearly. And don't forget to change WebView's parent to the vertical flex view we've created, and set flex property so that the web view can take all rest of space. So, let's start with URL bar. For simplicity, the URL bar will only take inputs and will load page when a button is pressed. For user input, I created a Views text field and created a Views label button labeled Go. Base bind repeating would be new to you. You can think of it as standard bind function alternative. It generates functor. So here we're adding callback that will be invoked whenever the button is pressed. In the callback, you can see we're getting web contents out of the web view and getting the controller. And load URL method belongs to the controller. The returned controller is a navigation controller. A web contents has one navigation controller. All navigation-related operations and data are delegated from web contents to navigation controller. This will be like this. The next thing we'll try adding is the title bar. The title of a web page will be set dynamically as loading progresses. You can imagine that web engine need to parse the DOM tree before it can tell us the title of a page. So the title need to be a Web Contents Observer. Plumbed observe method of Web Contents Observer so that title can observe the web contents. And we have title was set callback in the observer. So when it's invoked, get title and set to the title label. Here, you can see the navigation entry. Navigation is managed with stack so that we can go back and forward. Navigation entry is the entry of the stack. You can get title from the web contents too, but here we use the navigation entry as it has the same info. So, I switched titles type from label to title and started observing web contents of the web view. Let's take a look. Speaking of navigation stack, let's try adding back and forward button too. Again, I simply used View's label button for UI control, and you can see that I used Controller's Go Back API. Forward can be done in the same way. That's all for today. Thanks for watching as always. Please leave comments if you have any troubles or questions.